And joining me live today in studio is Ryan Donnelly from the Tanglewood Nature Center alongside Dumpling here. Dumpling has been making some pivots this morning, but really interesting species here. Could you tell us a little bit about Dumpling?
Yeah, of course. Dumpling is one of my favorite frogs that we have at Tanglewood because he is the only New York native species of tree frog. So they are gray tree frogs. They're found, like their name suggests, up in trees. And for them to be able to survive here over the winter, like on these cold days, they have a really cool adaptation. So, gray tree frogs have a naturally occurring alcohol in their body called glycerol. And glycerol has a freezing point of about -36 degrees. So that allows these frogs to stay nice and unfrozen during the winter months. And they actually hibernate up in kind of the hollows of trees. So.
And you know, when I think of a frog, I think of them in moist, wet areas, but for Dumpling here, that's not the case for him at all.
Exactly, yeah. So all amphibians, they do require some sort of moisture, some sort of water, but gray tree frogs are one of the most water kind of resistant frogs, so they can survive longer periods of time without water compared to other amphibians.
And you said he was a New York native.
Yes.
Where can we typically see him on trees?
So usually depending on their age, so juvenile frogs, newly born frogs, they're going to be closer to the bottom of the trees, while adults, they spend most of their time up in trees and they rarely come down. So it all depends on the ages where you're going to find them.
Yeah, and you know, the first thing I noticed when seeing him was just the texture of his skin, and it makes sense because it seems like he can blend in pretty well with these trees as well.
Exactly, and the cool thing with these frogs is that they can actually change the color of their skin depending on the environment that they're living in. So Dumpling in his environment at the Nature Center in his enclosure, we kind of have kind of darker bark, darker substrate for him, so that's why he kind of has this darker brown color. But out in nature, you can find them even almost like mint green color because they blend in kind of with lichen, with bark that they find up in the trees. So.
Now, what would Dumpling typically eat on a, on a hungry day?
Exactly. So Dumpling here, he is strictly an insectivore. So he loves to eat any sort of bug. What we feed him at the Nature Center is mostly mealworms, superworms, and the occasional cockroach. So.
Now, I'm curious to know, how do the kids interact with Dumpling? Is he more there for display? Are they able to interact with him in any way?
So yeah, we use him a little bit for programs, a little bit for display. As you can see, I have these gloves on now because, like many amphibians, he has a special adaptation that he can actually breathe and drink water through his skin. So he has semi-permeable skin. So because of that, humans, we have a lot of germs, a lot of chemicals on our hands that are healthy for us, might not be too healthy for a frog. So that's why I kind of wear these gloves in between. But if you ever find an amphibian out in the wild, it's fine to pick them up as long as your hands are wet beforehand and you don't hold them for too long. But yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't pick him up myself either, but Dumpling, you would look really cute with a top hat as well.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm curious to know, are there any upcoming events at the center?
Yeah, so now during the winter we have some of our kind of smaller events. So we have our Winter Wiggles programs, and we have coming up on our last Tuesdays of each month, our last Tuesday drop-ins, which is a great program. And then for our members, we have our winter break camps coming up as well. So all those can be found on our website and our social media pages.
Awesome. Well, we'll have all that information linked at WENY.com. All you need to know about Dumpling and all of those upcoming events. But for now, I'll send it right back over to you, Kurt.